What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Logicast, the Logical Gamers podcast. I'm here with the esteemed panelists today. I'm here with Gunnar Eos and Hado Wolf. Unfortunately, Blanca Khan could not make it tonight. But today, we're going to be discussing the Nintendo Switch uh, Nintendo Direct that was, as of the recording of this, that occurred yesterday at 4/2. So we're just gonna give pretty much our overall thoughts, what we thought about the presentation, the games that were included within the direct, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to give my thoughts on it. Just give like a brief summary of some of the things that I was interested in, some of the things I was disinterested in, and we can pretty much get Gunner's point and get Wolf's point, and then we'll, continue the conflict there. All right. So I took some notes, and the first thing that I have listed are the Nintendo Switch features. Right now, I have, which was a pretty big thing that I felt to be super cool. Been waiting for this for quite some time. It's something that the console should have had within its predecessors, and that is the chat feature. I like the fact that you can chat natively to the Switch 2. You don't have to buy any external components. It has a built-in mic, so you can speak accordingly. I believe the last time I even remember a chat system being on native technically to a Nintendo console was the Nintendo Wii. We had to purchase that external item that came with Monster Hunter Tri. But other than that, that was it. I think their chat system was solely on your mobile device. So that was pretty cool. Um, Being able to share games, I think that was another big one. I like the fact that which this is not the one that I'm speaking on pertaining to borrowing games that we spoke about in the last topic discussion for last week. I'm speaking more so as a game sharing where if someone is, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, if someone is within your vicinity, you'll be able to share games to other Nintendo Switches. I believe it's the original Nintendo Switch as well as the Switch 2, and people are able to play games accordingly. I felt that to be a great feature because it allows people to be able to test the games out. Or, if you're not, if you don't have it financially, you're able to pretty much enjoy a multiplayer game as long as one person has that game available in their console. So that was pretty cool. Um, an extra USB-C port. A lot of people probably wouldn't care about that, but I felt that to be a real big deal. Um, you know, when it comes to charging portably, I would like to have the charger at the top so it's not getting in the way of like it being at the bottom while I'm playing in handheld mode. So that's pretty cool, and you're able to add extra components now that you have that extra slot available. Um, so the form factor is bigger, so you have bigger Joy-Cons, a bigger screen, bigger analog sticks. That's pretty good. More internal memory. That's always a good deal. Um, the things that I'm not so much a fan of, not a fan of like having to use a proprietary camera. Um, if for those of you who are interested in buying the camera to be able to, have more interactivity between your friends via gameplay, you have to buy that camera. You can't use any third party camera that you have already purchased or like something that might be a little bit cheaper. They did price it at a decent price point, so that's pretty good. I believe it was at $50 if I'm not mistaken. Um, Another big issue, given the price point, is that it's not an OLED option. For some reason, it doesn't have an OLED screen. Yes, they did bump up the capabilities. You have the 4K resolution. You also have HDR, which is high dynamic range. It makes your lights lighter and your darker. That's pretty good. But it would have been nice for them to incorporate an OLED screen. and the fact that you have to purchase a new micro SD card. I figured this would have been a good opportunity if I were to migrate over to the Switch 2, that I could pretty much remove my existing micro SD into from the old Switch and port it over to the new Switch. But unfortunately, you can't because they're requesting that you utilize a micro SD Express. I believe it's mandatory if you were to add tack on that extra storage. Um, I don't think that you'll be able to use the original micro SD card. Um, so just moving forward a little bit, um, the games that I'm going to discuss as well. I have listed the Welcome Tour, which is, I think, a nice addition to the Switch 2. My only gripe about it is that you have to pay for it. Typically, when the Switch or any other consoles that Nintendo provides that have like an innovative experience to it, that game is usually free. I remember Wii Sports being free; it came with the Wii. I also remember that those mini games that was on the 3DS to kind of promote the capabilities of Find Me and the 3D portion of it. They had games that were free for that. Yeah, one of the games was Find Me, and they had some other stuff as well available to it. Um, Games that I'm impressed that are coming to the Switch. Elden Ring, although I wouldn't, you know, repurchase it, but that's good for those who don't have any of the other consoles and wanted to play Elden Ring. Hades 2, Street Fighter 6. I'm pretty sure for my amiibo collectors, you guys will most likely enjoy those as well. Um, Bravely Default. I can't lie, it looked really nice compared to its original version on the 3DS. Um, GameCube becoming an addition for Nintendo Online. That's bittersweet. I wish that they would have just made remakes of the games that they were speaking about, i.e., Soul Calibur 2, Pokemon Coliseum, Wind Waker, but they decided to just port all those games over. So that's a nice addition for those of you who wish to pay extra for Nintendo Online and haven't gotten to play it. Unfortunately, I'm a physical person, so you know it doesn't. I don't really like it. I'm a little hesitant on that. And the games that I'm absolutely looking forward to. Deus Ex Machina looks incredible. I love mech games, so that's pretty cool. Mario Kart World is also a fun one. Um, James Bond, after several years, they have a 007 project in the works. I will say, while before I go down the list further, guys, that I'm not sure if these are going to be, besides the exclusive Nintendo games. I don't know if the other games are third party, but I'm just listing off what they mentioned that kind of captured my eye. Um, Civilization 7, which I'm really intrigued about simply because now um, the Nintendo Switch has that mouse feature, which would make it a lot easier to play games like Civilization on the Nintendo Switch. So that's pretty cool. Hollow Knight Silk Song, a long awaited title that a lot of people were waiting for, and actually had a date, a release date, so that's good. Marvel Comics Invasion, Reanimal looked interesting. Dusk Bloods, which I guess is probably a sequel to Bloodborne. I don't know. It has blood in it, so I'm not too certain. And Donkey Kong. Um, so yeah, I pretty much said a lot there, guys. I went through like the games I'm interested in, the games that I'm impressed that are being migrated over to the Switch 2, the components, and my likes and dislikes. So I'm gonna pass it on to you guys, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have more to say, but I want to give you guys the floor to let you guys get your points across and whatnot. So yeah.
Uh, you want to take this, Wolf, or you wanna?
Sure.
All right.
So I am gonna contest your um the what's it called, the tour, the welcome tour.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that is essentially an instruction manual that you are
Yeah.
paid to play.
No, no, you're
Um,
absolutely right. I'm just saying that it shouldn't. it shouldn't be. You shouldn't have to pay for it, pretty much.
It's a huge negative. Um, it's a huge negative
Hmm.
for me personally. Um, what I love is the fact that it seems like they're graphically taking their console seriously in terms of giving us like, 4K options, um, and high graphical performance, which is nice. Being able to play a game in 120 frames or 60 frames is
Hmm.
really nice. um, yeah, I also agree with the fact that it's compatible with they said selected
Yeah.
Switch One games.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. So I'm going to assume as of right now that obviously not every game is going to be backwards compatible. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, if your game is not on that list, then that is yet again another reason, that you have to reconsider. But the fact that it is backwards compatible, it's an easy upgrade because you'll know that your games on your old Switch can still be played if you have the right ones or if the right ones you care about. Um, the They are dropping it with a Pro controller. That is significant to me only
Oh,
because I do not like the Joy-Cons. I don't like them. So to have a Pro controller option from day one, I think is a real smart move. And it's something that I would support and I would spend the extra $70 or $80 because the Pro controller I use now I think is $80 $70. I think it comes
70.
out on, yeah.
Yeah.
Um So again, it's not a controller that I don't mind investing into. I think the Pro controller is amazing, and it
yeah.
should be a must-have for anyone who has a Switch console. But the chat seems cool and gimmicky at the same time. But the the things that you can do with the chat, like show your face or like play different games. I thought that was well, playing the different games while still in chat mode and being able to watch each other's gameplay. I thought that was pretty entertaining, or it'd be great for recording.
That's what I was gonna
Um,
say. For streaming
right,
purposes, it would have been awesome.
right. It's really good for that. So I think there's some real positives there. Overall, the camera to me is one big ass gimmick. Um, it's just another toy that you put on your console. But this is Nintendo we're talking about, which originated as a toy company. So, um, and there's one thing I wanted to point out because it blew my mind. Did anybody, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it or maybe I'm being cynical, but did anybody find it, I want to use the word hilarious or weird or odd, that they made a whole basketball video game with people in wheelchairs to
It's
utilize the consoles or to promote the console's capabilities?
I, uh,
What?
I think they probably should have made an ice skating game or an ice hockey game. Yeah, it was a little weird when I saw the paraplegic basketball layup game and like, okay, I if this is a thing you do, here's your representation. You can't get more represented than this. I guess. I'm gonna leave that one alone because it's like it
I
came out
But
of
I,
left
it,
field.
listen. This is probably an unpopular opinion. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I was intrigued by it because it reminded me of like NBA Jam or NBA Streets, but you're using your arms. It's not something that I would buy for the price point. But if it ever went down in price, I could see myself trying it or whatever. But it has to go down significantly in price. But it was
but
hilarious though. It was.
that's the thing. You're concerned about the price. I was more like, are we really making a video game about people in wheelchairs to promote the gimmicks of your product? That is wild to me. But I digress.
I ain't see a
Um,
problem. I ain't see a problem. I'm like it's Nintendo. Nintendo is all about family oriented. You know,
Yeah, if
it,
your family member has trouble with stairs, this is a game for them.
or it
this is a
could
game
be,
for them.
or they could be
Like
making
here,
fun of us because we grew up on Nintendo. So they probably making fun of us, calling us grandpas. We're probably in wheelchairs, and they thought,
No, no, those
no,
were the wheelchairs for like disabled individuals. Those aren't
right.
like, all
I
right,
know,
grandpa.
I
I
know,
can't
because
walk,
the
but I
wheels were
still want to
inverted.
play sports. Right. Like I was my jaw dropped. I didn't know how to respond to that.
Could have
Um
been worse.
yeah, I guess so. If I do buy this console, I would buy this console with the sole intentions of Mario Kart Tour or World. I think that game looks phenomenal. That game looks like it's gonna be well, we all know that Mario Kart is a game that lasts forever. It
Mm.
doesn't die. Um and at the same time, it the things that you can do in Mario Kart World or or that I'm expecting them to say that you can do and uphold to it. I to be able So one thing they said that really stood out to me was that in a regular Mario Kart game, you would do 4 to 5 courses. But at the end of the race of one course, you get your loading screen, you'll see who won, and then it'll just load them into the next course.
Hmm.
In this game, instead of doing that, a part of the competition is to race to the next course. And I don't know why that stood out, why I like that so much, but for me, it feels like that constant like gameplay. Like there is um like it's a smooth transitioning into from one course to the next or from one map to the next. And unlike some other games of franchises that I do love to play, where they introduce that but then have you teleport everywhere, um, this game, I imagine that you would still be racing through course by course by course if you choose to play in that mode. And I thought that was really cool feature. So Mario Kart World, and Metroid Prime 4
Oh
are
yeah,
the
yeah.
only two reasons as to why I would jump on this console day one. Other than that, I would like to see what other games come out because everything they've introduced so far are either remakes where you pay for an upgrade version, like what Elden Ring did for PlayStation 5
Hmm.
and Star Wars did for PlayStation 5. Like there were a few games that did that for the PS5 as well.
Hmm.
So it's not like I haven't seen this before. Um, so other than like those games I'm not really interested in playing. I'm they don't intrigue me in any way. But the Metroid 4 because it's new and again if they're promising us the great performance that this console is supposed to bring, I'm expecting my Metroid 4 experience to be top notch. Um and then Mario Kart has always had a special place in my heart, so I'll be there for it.
All
But
right.
Mhm.
So okay, you guys said a lot, and I don't want to reiterate too much, so I'll just kind of like bullet point it for lack of a better word. So I do like the console design. I'm a guy that kind of prefers minimalist designs. So I know some people are saying, "Oh, it looks a little humdrum." That's fine. The Switch design to me was already simple, clean, effective. This is just more of the same. It's a bigger screen. I do agree. I kind of if you're charging me almost $500 for the damn thing, just make it OLED right out the gate. Steam Deck has an OLED version, but anyway. Um, but here we are. The screen's bigger. It's a decent. It's a top quality LCD screen. The Joy Cons are obviously bigger. I don't know how they function. That's something I don't think any of us will know until we get our hands on the console. Are we going to be plagued by stick drift? I haven't seen Nintendo directly address that. I'd hope to fucking God above that Nintendo does not give us another controller that suffers from stick drift. But I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Um, So like the design is very ergonomic, very minimalist. I'm down with. I do like the two different the fact that there's a USB 3 slot on the top now that can be used for charging. That's a lot more convenient when it comes to playing something while you're charging it. Cool. AC adapter, great. That means you can buy one and keep it if you travel with your Switch or you're playing on your bed and the dock is further away. Great. Love that. Um, the new kind of like Discord-esque new communication button with the new C button that was added. When I saw it, I was like, it's cool, it's neat, but I don't see myself ever really using it because I just use Discord. Um, Supposedly they made a big deal of letting you know that even though it's gonna read your voice off of a built-in mic on the console, that even if you have a lot of noise, a lot of background noise, it will be able to successfully filter that out and you'd be able to have a conversation with other people without having to worry about that noise
Yeah.
getting in the way. So we're not living like the 360 era of crazy background noise. They even showed an example of a guy using a blender while the other guy was playing a game. So again, right now we just have to take Nintendo's word for it. I guess people will find out when the console's live. But me, when I saw it, I was like, okay, it's neat, but I don't ever see myself using it. And let's say there's a game that we're all playing. Let's say Monster Hunter Rise 2 comes out, for example, and that's a Switch game, and it's a Switch exclusive in a crazy world because the first one was for a while. We're just gonna use Discord. I don't think any of us are gonna. I mean, I wouldn't be the first to jump onto it personally. But it's nice that it's integrated into the system, and you no longer have to use that godforsaken stupid cell phone app like they tried to do with the Switch. Um, I didn't think about the possibilities of like streaming. That's a good point that you guys brought up. That could. I don't know the video that they showed. If they're being honest, I respect them for their honesty. But that video kind of looked choppy.
Yeah, it did.
It did.
It did.
Yeah, it looked like it was running on maybe like 20 frames or and so. uh, But if that's really how it runs, I'm glad they put that up front instead of saying, "Oh no, this runs at crisp, smooth 1080p, 60 FPS," and then people buy it and it's like I'm watching Wolf play Mario Kart World in stop motion.
Yeah, and
So
Hmm.
I think it's going to be contingent upon how well your internet connection is.
yeah, I'd imagine same with the voice quality.
Yeah,
So let's hope that's up to snuff too, because Nintendo has been notorious with their online infrastructure not being the best.
that's true.
I mean, I never had a problem when we played Rise. I never had any horrendous issues, and when we were playing Generations, we
Mhm.
never really had any problems. But that's the Switch. This is the Switch too. Um,
Right.
so games. I was like, I called it. I knew I called it. I knew Metroid Prime. They're going to pull um a Breath of the Wild situation, which I'm glad because I will more than likely not be getting the console at launch. So I'll play it on Switch, my OG Switch. But I do like that there's a Switch 2 option, and Nintendo is starting to get with the graphics presets. So do you want to prioritize fidelity or do you want to prioritize frame rate? And if any game is going to run at the 120 FPS, it's going to be Metroid Prime 4. Like this game has been delayed way too many times. If any game is going to perform at the top of its class, it's going to be that one. So if you want Metroid at its best, maybe getting a Switch 2 day 1 or month 2 is maybe you might want to do that so you can get like the best Metroid gaming experience. Um some of the other games they showed like Octopath, not Octopath, sorry, Bravely Default. I was interested in until I found out it was a game key. Then I kind of lost interest in that. We'll get into that later. Um, they showed, Cyberpunk is gonna be there. That's cool. Elden Ring's gonna be there. That's cool. More options for more gamers who don't want to get something like a PlayStation 5 or a PC. Cool. More options, always a great thing. Then kind of ending, the new Donkey Kong game looks pretty solid. I'll probably pick it up when I get the system. I'm not a huge like platformer game, but this is kind of like in the vein of Mario Odyssey, so it's kind of like 3D world, and this man is punching holes in the floor and digging and shit. So it looks pretty interesting. And DK doesn't get a lot of games, so it's cool that he's getting some love as well. Um, and then pretty much when they ended it off with that new, definitely not Bloodborne 2, but Bloodborne from Software game that is exclusive to the Switch. Now, we don't know if that's permanent. I'd imagine it's timed. Now, if we find out that Nintendo funded the game like they did Bayonetta 2, yeah, get yourself a Switch 2 because that's the only way you're going to play it, unless you play on emulators. Then I guess you found a workaround. Um, that looks cool. Me personally, I kind of lost interest in it when I found out that it's going to be a player versus player versus player versus enemy game, kind of like, well, sort of like Night Rain, but you're gonna be pitted against actual players. I'm kind of not really with the PvP game modes anymore. If I find out later that there is going to be a standalone first person story, that'll change my opinion. The PvP mode will just be something I don't engage in, which I'm fine with that. But as it stands right now, that kind of killed the hype for me. That's a personal thing. I know some people are loving it and it's great, cool. Here we go. You wanted Bloodborne 2? This is as close as you're going to get to it. Enjoy. So overall, I think the console is pretty solid. It's a pretty much direct upgrade. It's beefier, it's stronger, it has bigger internal memory. The Discord chat functionality is pretty cool. It's not Discord, but it's Discord-like.
Mhm.
That's cool, and it's integrated into the system day one. You don't need like some separate peripheral to get into it. So
Or
that's
wait
that's
for a later update.
yeah, right, or yeah. So it might not matter much to me, but it's gonna matter to other people, and that's cool. Um, yeah, so overall, I was impressed with the console. The price of the console, though, ooh, I mean, I think we all knew it was gonna go up. Um, but like we are starting to rival like modern consoles. We're starting to rival the PlayStation. We're starting to rival the lower end of the Steam Deck and the lower end of other personal PCs like the ROG Ally and stuff like that. So I hope Nintendo isn't trying to shoot for the stars when they need to kind of stay on Earth, because Nintendo has always been the company that moms and dads, families could afford because it wasn't as expensive as a gaming PC or the big consoles, where you can buy like two or three of them if you have like a couple kids on Christmas, and it wouldn't completely break the bank. I don't know many families who are gonna drop close to 1,000, not close, $1,000+ to get two kids a Switch 2. That's a lot to ask for where we are currently in 2025. So we'll see. We'll see. Holiday will be like this console will be active and flowing during the holiday seasons. So we'll see how that looks like. But me personally, I'm probably just gonna wait on the console. A lot of the games I'm interested in are also coming out for the Switch and also coming out for other consoles. Like you mentioned, Deus Ex Machina Esoteric, that is also coming out for PlayStation 5 and PC. So
Okay.
I might just get it for PlayStation 5. We'll see.
Y-
Um,
Yeah, that
and as far
definitely.
as
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, as far as the exclusive games go, they're pretty cool, but I'm not really interested in playing better running Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom personally. So that's not a system seller for me. DK is cool, but not a system seller for me. And Mario Kart, while cool, and I enjoyed my time with it, is not a system seller for me. So for me, it's kind of like maybe wait till holiday season and see what comes up then. But I'll more than likely get the console because much like the PlayStation 5, I can play my Switch games on the Switch 2, and then occasionally get the Switch 2 game that interests me. So that was my TLDR on the Direct. Overall, pretty all right, pretty good, pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. And then and in regards to what you enjoy playing and whatnot, if you have to be like financially responsible, or you have to be super intrigued as to like what the what Nintendo is offering, then that's completely understandable. what was I gonna say? So I did take a couple of notes because you guys said quite a few things. Now, the first thing I wanted to discuss was the pro controller. Initially, what I thought you were saying, Wolf, was that they were bundling it with the console, but
No.
then I realized that
Mm-mm.
you meant that they were releasing it as an option.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot
Hmm.
of sense. So here's my question though. So I from what I've seen is that the only difference between the newer model versus the old is the chat button, and they have like two programmable back buttons at the like the bottom of the controller, the back
Hmm.
bottom of the controller. So that made me want to ask if you guys know, is the current Pro controller compatible? Because if so, wouldn't it be more financially reasonable to just utilize or continuously utilize your current Pro controller if you're not utilizing the chat feature and you don't have any intention on uh, utilizing the new back buttons?
I would expect they're gonna take the Sony's route where the PS4 DualShock controllers can only be played on PlayStation 4
Yeah.
games that you're playing on the PlayStation 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I expect them to do, but this is Nintendo, who can be a little weird. Um, so I expect that, but honestly, I was already from the time they mentioned the new Pro controller, I
Mm-hmm.
had already put it in my mind that I'm gonna have to rebuy a controller. I
Okay.
am.
Yeah.
Now, if they're saying you can play Switch 2 games with the old Pro controller, holy cow, you got it right then and there. Like that's amazing,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
I honestly expect that they're gonna take Sony's route. If you're playing a Switch 1 game on the Switch 2, regular Pro controller is just fine. If not, you got to get an upgraded Pro controller.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. Wolf, me, Wolf is being a little more generous. I think they're just like, nah, you're buying a Switch 2 Pro controller. This will not be compatible. Fuck yourself. $80, please. Nintendo's on a tirade of, um, it's a me. Give me your money. So I would not be. I would be more shocked if they did say the Switch Pro controller is compatible with obviously limited functionality. I'd be very surprised.
Yeah.
Pleasantly surprised, but surprised nonetheless.
Yeah, that would absolutely make a lot of sense because then there wouldn't be much of an incentive to it's the perfect middle ground for like, okay, we're gonna give you uh the availability to utilize your old controller, but we're gonna provide you with limited functionality to at least set your mind with the incentive of acquiring the new controller. Um, it's just the only differences that I did see was the two back buttons and the C button, which if you're not going to utilize those, then the old one would be perfectly feasible. But again, you never know if they just like cut the service off from the Switch 2 entirely. Um, which brings me to my next thing. Nintendo has always been known for being financially reasonable, with the exception of the 3DS. Because the 3DS, when it initially came out, Gunnar and I were discussing it. It was a bit egregious when they released that. Um, but then they calmed down with the pricing and was a little more reasonable. But I just say that to say, um, do you guys think that the reason why the price has been hiked up is due to the fact that Nintendo is keeping up with the up to date components? Because now we're getting 4K support, we're getting 120 frames. Um, Chances are there are faster components that are associated with that. They didn't really give the definitive breakdown as to what the Switch has. Um, but just those two components alone, it's kind of competing alongside with, PS4 to PS5 and like Xbox Series X. So, I mean, do you guys think that it's a reasonable price hike in terms of like what they're giving us with this new console, or is it just like, oh my god, this is way too egregious? It doesn't make any sense considering that there are other competitors that are like the Switch now. That they created that monster, you know.
I think I think it's I'm conflicted between I'm conflicted in the middle, but I'm leaning more towards the side of I understand why they would make it as expensive as they did. The reason why is because not only much like what you said, the the bigger screen, the stronger processing power, the fact that it can now play games, I would assume is on par with the PlayStation 5. Um, yeah, I understand, but what really drives it home for me to say, okay, well, the price is the price is because it can do all of that and still be a handheld device. So if I want a big screen, I can plug it in, put it on its port and let it, um, on the TV or the monitor, whatever it is you play it on. And then if I'm on the go, I can still, or they, at least to my understanding, you still get the same quality in handheld mode. So to have the convenience with the processing power is to me a really good selling point if you really care about how well a game plays in terms of like frame rate and so forth. Frame rate, colors, like are your blues really blue? Is your red really red?
Mm-hmm.
Like things like that. If that's really important to you, then I can understand the price because I'm a Steam Deck owner, and to be honest, I don't really play it. I really don't, and it's not because the Steam Deck doesn't offer good video games. It definitely offers good video games, but I've also had my fair share of video games that has processing issues, regardless of it being a Steam Deck and extremely powerful. And I think I bought the $600 version for the Steam Deck.
Mm.
I think it was a $600 version I
The
bought, which
OLED.
was yeah, which is like the second level.
Okay.
I bought the second level because there's three levels to the Steam Deck, and
Yeah,
I
I think
bought
that was the
level
five, maybe the 512.
something like that. All I know
Yeah.
is what came out of my account was 600, or around that number. Um, so I barely ever play it, and again, it's not because I really don't have any games to play on it. I have a ton of games to play on it, but it's just you think that something is worth it when you actually buy it, and then it really isn't when it comes down to it. Like I do, regardless, my Switch is still one of the most. It's I play my Switch more than I play my PlayStation 5, and that's because my Switch not only has titles that I like, but it's also a strong RPG console at this moment, which RPGs I love. So there's reasons for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention the handheld capabilities is really nice because sometimes I'm not even home and I was still able to play Monster Hunter Generations with the fellas online.
Mm.
Whereas if it was TV bound, I wouldn't have that ability. I'd actually have to go home. So or take a risk and take the whole damn console with me. So so yeah, I think with that being said, a person can make an argument as to why the 500 is or the however amount it's going to cost is worth the value. But it still ultimately comes down to personal preference and what advantages about the console are you going to take. Like for me, I'm not a big graphics person. As long as the game is good and entertaining and is playing straight, then I'm all right. But for some, like a friend of ours, graphical performance is everything to him.
Yeah.
So, you know, different perspectives there.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, like I think the price was inevitable with just the way, with what they're providing, outside influences like, where economies are and where stuff like that. I kind of figured that we weren't going to get the Switch 2 for what we got the Switch for. So I'm not too upset by the price. And for me, I can engage in that price because of backwards capability.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
to me, that's huge.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about not all games have been listed as compatible. Um, so obviously, all first party Nintendo games are gonna be compatible. That goes without saying. And I'm hoping most of my third party library will be compatible in some way, shape, or form. I don't see why it wouldn't. I think obviously like the Nintendo Labo games are not going to be compatible. Um, that weird game that had Star Fox was the last time we saw Star Fox that had little toy ships that hooked up to your controller. That's probably not going to be compatible. But I imagine most regular titles like the Xenoblade series and Unicorn Overlord, like that's going to be compatible. So
Okay.
that to me that's a big factor because I can like kind of or keep the Switch on the back burner and again like I said multiple times, much like my PlayStation 5, I can still just use it as a Switch machine. Um the reason why I'm not getting it at launch is multitude of reasons, mostly because it's just like I don't feel the need to jump on the new console right away. But I don't think the price is absurd. I stick by what I said earlier that what made Nintendo a popular and desirable console developer was the fact that they were cheaper than the big boys. And the fact that they're kind of like inching closer to the current prices of modern day consoles and handheld PCs like Steam Deck, to me, it's just like if Nintendo's gonna do that, then their console really has to bring the goods because we can't use price
Mm-hmm.
point as an excuse anymore. It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, we know that the Switch isn't that great, but it is only a $300 console. We can't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah. I know these like they say, oh, games can run up to 120 FPS. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
need to see more games running at like standard 60 or at least a stable 30.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm gonna shell out the money for that, you got to meet me halfway across this proverbial bridge. So I'm not really upset by the price. I'm not surprised, but if we're not being greedy, which let's if you look on the internet, Nintendo is being accused of being a greedy ass corporation. If you want to kind of squash those rumors, your console has to bring it, and I guess we'll find out in June.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree that in one aspect it's inevitable. Um, well, in that aspect that it's inevitable, simply because Nintendo has been caught in like this like middle ground where it's like, oh well, it's a good price, but we're not getting a lot of third party support simply because a lot of developers don't want to deal with archaic, hardware anymore, right? And that's always
That's
been
what I was gonna say.
that's always been the thing with Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
So I think given the price point that they're giving us for the Switch, and given the catalog of games, because now we're getting Elden Ring. Like, there's no way in hell that Elden Ring would have been able to play on the original Switch. They would have had to definitely like
It's clouded.
degrade it.
They
Yeah,
have to they have to put it on the cloud system thing, like
Yeah.
what they
yeah,
did for Kingdom Hearts.
yeah. They definitely would have had to do that among other games. Like just seeing the integrity of um what was it called? Hogwarts Legacy, which is a game that, in terms of its fidelity, it looks terrible on the original Switch. But now that they're getting a port for the Switch too, I think a lot of fans will like that. My the my missus specifically, because she plays Hogwarts Legacy, over and over and over again, and I think she will enjoy it more with the aesthetics being a bit better and like the rate being better. I know we're not big on like the whole frame rate and the whole like graphic enhancements or whatever. We can play pixelated games and we can play crazy, stunning, graphically looking games. Um, and it's all about the gameplay over here. But I think the new stuff is welcome. If we can get a stable frame rate of 60, if they give us 120, great. I think that's at the discretion of the developers that are making the game for the console. Honestly, I expect the frame rate for their new titles that are exclusive to the Switch 2 to be 120, um, because like those games will be proprietary. These will be in-house developers that are creating this game for this console. So they should have a better acquaintance of what the Nintendo Switch has in order for them to do what they need to do effectively. Um, I do not want to see another Pokemon game like Scarlet and Violet. We don't need that. There's no reason why we should have even seen that. Um, so I'm just hoping that, like you said, Gunner, that they need to bring the heat. Which I think they will, because there's again there's quite a few catalogs of games. And then another thing I wanted to add was I mean, I didn't mention Metroid in the beginning, which that's one of the biggest games I'm looking forward to. I gushed about it last week. If you guys check out the last topic that we spoke about, but I'm expecting Metroid to go above and beyond. Like when Metroid Prime first came out on the GameCube, it was that game as well as Resident Evil 4 that really pushed the envelope of the Nintendo GameCube. Like you really saw what the GameCube was capable of. So I'm really looking forward to them providing that same type of energy for the Switch 2, especially considering that it's been damn near over a decade since we've been waiting for another Prime game. I mean, we got Metroid Dread, which was phenomenal, but we've been waiting for a Prime game for a long, 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 long time. So hopefully they do that. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully they do that. Um, but what else was
Yeah.
I going to? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Wolf.
No, I was saying is I do agree with what Gunnar is saying, is that if they're promoting all of this, and they did use the word up to,
Hmm.
so that means that they need to really like put in that work and show us like, hey, this is a console that's worth buying over the Steam Deck, or jumping straight to PC, or even for PlayStation and Microsoft players, to at least look at the console. Um, but that still does ends up being on the third party developers as well, on them developing games for it as well, and what kind of quality video games that's going to be developed for the
Hmm.
console on the
Yep.
third party end. Um, so there's a lot that's riding on it. And honestly, yeah, I would be a disappointed consumer if I spent $500 on the console in June, and then 6 months later, a year later, I don't have any games on it. Like, Sony's console that's sitting on my dresser right now. Um, what I have for the PlayStation 5, 4 games. How long the PlayStation 5 been out for?
Since
Um,
2020, I believe.
2025 years. So I bought a game for every year that it's been out.
I,
Um, it's like I have literally, I think, like 5 disc games and maybe like 2 downloaded games on it. So I have a shit ton of memories on my PS5 that I'm not using. Um, so I don't want that situation. You understand? And honestly, if it wasn't for Monster Hunter, I wouldn't own a PlayStation 5. Um, so with that being said, I do understand that aspect, like buying a console day one, you're excited, you're like, yeah, this is gonna be the tech of the year for me. And then Christmas time comes around and you're still trying to justify that one game. But like, you played Metroid 4 7 times because there is nothing else to play on it,
Well,
or it's the only game that runs well on it, for example.
well,
Which is another issue too.
well, to interject, I think that's probably why they're launching with Mario Kart, because Mario Kart is such a longevity game where it's like, do you really have to acquire another game in between, like between the time that it launches and Christmas? And I'm not saying that like for us, because absolutely we would definitely want a large catalog of games. We would get tired of Mario Kart and want to like play other stuff from other genres and whatnot. But giving the the larger demographics, which would be like the children and people who don't really play like how we do. I think that's why they're launching with Mario Kart, because it has such a longevity to it, that I can see people playing that all day every day from now until Christmas. If there was like another game that's coming out, say Thanksgiving, I can see them doing that. So I think that was a
That
smart play on their part.
that's fine, yeah, because of the amount of replayability and the fact that it's a game that's going to rely on online. So right then and there, you're gonna have to buy, the online thing too. So they definitely thought about it in a smart way in terms of like getting people to spend without, for pleasure.
Hmm.
But yeah, it still will still boil down to like, okay, again, I said earlier that I'm willing to buy the console day one for Mario Kart and for Metroid, just to make sure that I have the consoles for when. Well, Mario Kart is a day one release. Metroid, I think, is a little later.
I
Um,
believe so. Yeah.
yeah, it's a little just slightly later, I think. Um, so I'm open to that idea, but I don't want to be one of those consumers that like Gunner is trying to, avoid being, is that I bought those two games and that's all I have.
Yeah, yeah,
Or I bought those two games and one of them runs like Scarlet and Violet runs on the Switch. That would be highly depressing.
yeah.
And it would make me feel like I'm a clown because I jumped ahead and jumped into something that obviously wasn't ready
Hmm.
to to be bought yet and has its issues, which is usually most devices that can get updates. They
Yeah.
usually do come out with issues. The the iPhones typically do that. They come out with, when they first launch, they have their fair share of issues and then it's slowly fixed for
Hmm.
the lifetime of the iPhone. Um, so I don't expect the console to be perfect. Like I don't expect the chat system to be perfect. I do expect that, one, we'll probably have connectivity issues from time to time. I do expect that, maybe the game sharing part will be a bit glitchy. I do expect that there are moments where the sound quality isn't as high or as strong. Like I'm not expecting, perfection, but I do expect that if you're going to compete with the bigger consoles, that your balls have to be just as big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you still have to deliver on what you promise.
Yeah. I.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I don't have much else to say. It's just, again, backwards compatibility definitely saves this console for me and makes it a lot more desirable. There are some design choices. I said it with like the whole game key, as a big advocate of physical media. That just kind of like chucks that whole thing out the window. And much like the government, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So could this be the future of Switch games, where a lot of these games are on game key, or when it comes to third-party developers, they'll put it as a game key because it's cheaper, and they want to save. If they could save a penny, they're gonna save that penny. So who knows what the Switch 2 is gonna look like in a couple years or a year from now? So that's why I'm personally waiting. But I don't think it's a bad console to buy at launch, because again, if you have an extensive Switch library, that library will transfer over. I imagine your digital library will transfer over just as fine. So if you're more on the digital side, you link up, you sign in with your Nintendo account, and you want to download Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3 and play it on your Switch 2, I see no reason why you can't do that. And that definitely helps the system. Because I remember back to the 3DS days, and that shit was rough. I'm not a Dead or Alive player, and I played the shit out of Dead or Alive because that was fucking all that was there for
Yeah,
a good
all
long
that was there.
time.
Yeah,
It
So
was
I think
that. It
we're
was Street Fighter 4. It was. It
and
was.
fucking Steel Diver. Like I had to squeeze enjoyment out of that shit. But we're not there now. Thank Nintendo still kept the backwards capability, so you still have your library. Your library is still valid. So yeah, and any problems with the system, None of us will know that until it comes out and it's been out in the wild. I hope there isn't any horrible like overheating or fan issues or anything like that. I hope not.
That is something that I was gonna ask because I didn't catch it in the direct. Did they ever mention what the battery life is gonna be like? Because I can imagine in handheld being a superpower console, you're getting what, four
uh,
hours?
I I mean, it still has the same form factor, so I don't know if that matters. That's a good question. No, they did not
Yeah,
mention the battery life. But they what they did mention, which I think is cool, is that the new Switch 2 dock has a fan that will help cool the system down
Yeah,
while it's in docked mode.
yeah,
Which apparently is a big thing because we see all these third party like fans that boost that cool down your console. So apparently it's a viable strategy, and the fact that it comes built into that Switch 2 dock, which also has a built-in Cat 5 cable if you want a hardwired internet connection. So that's good. They at least they didn't take that out and go, you're using Wi-Fi and nothing else. So that's pretty
yeah.
cool. I do like that. But yeah, as far as the battery life goes, I don't think they said anything yet, or at least as of the recording of this video, I haven't seen anything yet. But I imagine best case scenario, it's the same as it is right now. Worst case is a little bit less.
yeah.
Gotcha.
To my knowledge, they haven't mentioned anything about that. But in regards to the fan, which is definitely a nice addition, my question is, why would that be needed when it's docked? Is it like is when it's in docked, is it pulling more resources or like
Yeah, because
okay.
when it's docked, it enables 4K support. So if you have like a 4K television or 4K monitor, you can play the game. It'll up the resolution to 4K, which means the system is going to be producing more heat than if you specifically played it in handheld mode. So
Okay.
the additional fan will keep the console cool while you're using 4K, so it won't overheat on you.
Okay, that makes sense. I was under the assumption that we had some type of like 4K support during handheld, but I guess that wasn't the case. It's only
No, because the
1080.
screen's only 1080p. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Thanks for the clarification. Um, but yeah, we're almost approaching the time, guys. Do you have any final thoughts pertaining to the Nintendo Switch? You know, do any of you guys have anything to say?
No, not that I read here. Yeah, I think I said my piece. We'll see.
Mhm.
We'll see. It'll be an interesting year for the Switch 2, an interesting holiday season. We'll see if it sells gangbusters, and uh,
Mhm.
I don't see Nintendo dropping the price anytime soon. So if you're holding your breath for that, you might just.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I do think that it's going to sell gangbusters because it's been long awaited. Like it's been what 10 years since a actual legit successor besides the OLED version. So I think it's gonna sell gangbusters along with Mario Kart being bundled with it. That's going to be a huge push for it. I also think somewhere down the line, maybe in the next 3 to 4 years, they're probably going to introduce a Switch 2 OLED version. Um, or to kind of rewind back between the release of the OLED version and the original version, they're probably going to have a smaller version of the Switch 2. You know, probably one where, who knows, if they're following the same pattern of the original Switch, it won't have any docking capabilities. It'll just be a strict handheld. Um, I think personally that will kind of defeat the purpose, but if it allows people to have that be able to be like a little more financially, if it allows for more financial sound, um then that's fine. Like if you know, if it doesn't break anybody's wallets. um
I
as
mean, let's
Yeah.
let's. I say this like people. I don't want to say. Well, this is gonna sound bad. This is gonna sound bad, but it is true. People have spent money on. People have spent thousands and thousands of dollars on a live service game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a gotcha game, and when those games end, that's it. Your money is done. So if you're the kind of guy who can literally turn around and play Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact, Weathering Waves, and you can literally throw $500 at those games, but you still are a console player or you have interest in this console, think about how much money you've spent in those gacha games, and it should come to reason as to why it's not that bad of a purchase for the console. Now, that's I'm only targeting those guys who are actually spending money in live service games and gacha games. I am not talking about those who do play it and prefer to stay free to play or prefer to minimalize the amount of spending they do. That's not who I'm targeting. I'm targeting those who are willing to throw away money on temporary enjoyment. um think about exactly what you're going, like if you can throw $500 at Weathering Waves, or you can throw $500 at Zenless Zero something something, you can throw $500 to Nintendo and get yourself an actual console that plays actual games that most likely never end.
Yeah, you make a lot of
Just
sense.
saying.
You make a lot of sense, but the reason why they don't look at it that way, at least I'm gonna speculate, is due to the fact that those fines are accruing incrementally, whereas you're paying a lump sum for the console. So it's if I had to equate it to something, it's kind of like some people who are like, well, they buy something online and they see that it's $10 shipping, right? Let's say it's like $50 plus $10 shipping, and they're like, well, no, I don't want to pay for shipping because it's $10. But then let's say if they saw that same item for $60 and shipping is free, it's included in the purchase, they're like, yeah, I'm more inclined to get it. So it's kind of like those two situations there. But I definitely get your point. If people kind of like open their minds and realize the amount of money they're spending on those types of games, is definitely they're definitely able to purchase the Switch. Um, but yeah, the other people outside of that realm who are like family oriented, who has like kids, um, who
You
want
better
some.
teach them to share.
Yeah. Oh man, that's what we had to do. That's what we had to
Yep,
do.
better
So
teach them to share.
which again, go full circle. The Nintendo Switch, the Switch 2 allows for that. So thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, we finally have reached time. I want to take this time to thank you guys for indulging me in this wonderful conversation. It's always great to hear you guys' perspectives on different topics, especially when it comes to video games. And with that being said, guys, I would love to hear your point of views in the comment section down below. Let us know if you enjoy the Switch 2. If well, not if you enjoy it, but if you're looking forward to acquiring the Switch 2 at launch. Is the catalog of games that are going to be released or upcoming games, is that going to be a incentive for you currently to buy the Switch at launch? Do you think that the price point is a bit egregious given the current components that they're providing you with? Definitely let us know. Do you think that the camera is stupid? Do you think the chat feature is a dumb implementation? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Also, if you are listening this far, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video. We release a video every Wednesday at 12 p.m. EST. And we kind of, as Gunnar would like to say, run the gambit when it comes to several different topics. We also have a main channel where I kind of man that ship. I do reviews. I have unboxing reviews. I do shorts, a couple of gameplay stuff, the works. And I also stream as well. Logical Gamers TV on Twitch. Check that out. The links to that description. The links to that will be in the description down below, as well as all the social media platforms that are listed right below the footage that we're showing you at this time. So, anyways, excuse me. It's like tired. Been a long day. Anyways, with that being said, folks, thank you so much. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your night. And last but certainly not least, if it ain't gaming, it ain't logical. Peace.